I've been playing Pixelmon for years now, and I'm still absolutely horrible at it, but when Complex Pixelmon approached me and asked me to do a 100-day challenge on their server, I couldn't say no. I've played on this server before, filled with great people and great adventures, but I've never done anything like this. It's sure to challenge me as a creator and a player. So let's get started. I logged onto the server and decided to play on Gold. Before I knew it, it was time to pick my starter Pokemon, and I went with Squirtle. Then it was time to start my adventure. I started day 2 by claiming a couple Pokeloots. Who doesn't like free stuff, am I right? Then it was time to find my first victim. I quickly beat my first Pokemon and spent the rest of the day exploring the world. I was lucky enough to get a shiny crate key to start, and I quickly wanted to find out what I could possibly get out of it. A shiny Primarina? I've never heard of it. I was happy to have it regardless and spent the rest of the day claiming some more Pokeloots. On this day, I decided to check out some dangerous territory, the GTS. I definitely needed a Master Ball, and when I saw that there were a few for sale, I knew I had to work towards being able to afford one. Sadly, they were pretty expensive. I had to find out how to make money quick. I battled a wild trainer, but after beating him, he only gave me 21 Pokédollars. But when visiting the market, I found out I can actually just sell random Minecraft stuff for money. So I got to work. I spent the rest of the day just collecting random things. I even got super lucky and found an experience share. This will come in handy later. At this pace, it's going to take an impossible amount of dandelions to make enough money. I had to find another way. On day 6, I decided to improve my team a little bit. I wanted a fire-type Pokemon. Found this little guy roaming the extreme hills, and I quickly caught him. It was time to start collecting materials to build myself a house. And I had an idea. Maybe ores would sell for more money. They definitely did, but I still had a long way to go. I needed a house, so I started with claiming some land and placing some blocks. The next day, it was all done, but the inside was a little bit empty. I needed some tools. While mining for materials to craft them, a world boss spawned. This was my first world boss, and I honestly had no idea what to do. I left empty-handed and was silently judged by this errand. I abandoned the whole crafting idea and decided to just purchase a PC. House is looking a lot more useful now. I knew I was going to need more Pokeballs, so I planted some apricorns. I had not collected a whole lot. So I went foraging, and I ran into my very first boss. Unfortunately, I got absolutely crushed. My team was no match for this super strong Deerling. I knew I had to level my team up, so I spent the rest of the night battling Pokemon instead of collecting apricorns, which I had originally set out to do. I did manage to find some apricorns, so I planted those the next day, crafted an anvil and a hammer, and made my first Pokeball. I spent most of day 11 underground collecting more ores so that I can work towards that Master Ball, and when I came back to drop the ores off, look at what was waiting outside my house, a Charizard. I seized the opportunity and I caught him. And after comparing the Charizard to my previously caught Charmeleon, I realized one of them had to go, and it was going to be the Charmeleon. So I put the Charmeleon up for sale on the GTS for an admittedly ridiculous price. A couple of Vote Crate keys came with day 12, and I decided to open them up and hopefully get lucky. I ended up winning a Cloner Cord and a Green Tank and immediately put them on the GTS for sale too. Now if you know me, you know I love myself a Turtwig, so I spent day 13 looking for a Turtwig in a forest biome. Sadly I couldn't find one, but I did find an Abra, and I like me some Abras too. And it was actually not a bad one. Day 14 and I was still trying to find out how to make money quickly. I had heard about hunts and decided to give those a try. Saw this gorgeous Ponyta and caught it. Apparently it's a Galarian Ponyta. It's beautiful. Found a Cottony, but unfortunately it wasn't the right nature to get the reward. So I abandoned the hunt entirely, went home, and made a mechanical anvil instead. No more manual Pokeball making for me. I was feeling courageous today, so I decided to battle my first actual human player. His Zapdos completely mopped the floor with me. Was not expecting that. It was time I started leveling up my guys and taking this team a little bit more seriously. To make myself feel better, it was time to open more crates. Won some tokens, and some much needed Dusk Balls, then spent the rest of my time at the Move Relearner teaching my guys moves they should not have forgotten in the first place. Day 17, and I'm more determined than ever to make myself enough money to buy a Master Ball. And while mining for ores to sell, I find my first fossil. The mining continues through day 18. I'm collecting as much as I possibly can. I really need that Master Ball. Another nice surprise waiting for me outside my house this day, an Onyx. With that special Pokemon added to my collection, it was time to sell off all the ores I'd mined the previous 2 days, and believe me, I sold a whole lot of stuff. Even after all that, I was still about 40,000 Pokédollars short. With a new day comes new opportunity. Decided to try my hand at finding that Turtwig again. And shortly after I started looking, guess who I found? It's a Turtwig! He was a tough one, but I finally caught him after using 4 or 5 Ultra Balls. Spent the next day leveling him up and teaching him Earthquake. I'd been curious about that fossil I found and I wanted to find out what it was. So I bought myself a fossil machine and a fossil cleaner and set them up. Then it was just a waiting game. What would I get? After what felt like forever, I ended up with a Tyrant. I had a hankering for some more free stuff and I knew exactly where to get it. All I had to do was travel to each of the gyms and claim the Pokestops right outside. It was also a pretty quick way to get a bunch of Pokeballs. By day 24, I'd collected a couple more crate keys. I decided to open up a level crate key and a couple vote crate keys. Then I got curious about the special forms crate key that I had and decided to open that one too. And I ended up with a shiny, drowned Flygon. Looked pretty cool to me. Remember that Onix that I'd caught? Well, it was time to turn it into a Steelix. So I went and bought Metal Coat and spent the next little while trying to convince this guy to trade with me so he can evolve. Luckily, he figured out that I wasn't just a crazy person, and he traded the Steelix for me. That Master Ball was still out of my reach. I needed to make more money so I can buy it. So I just started battling every single thing I can see to collect some more cash and collect some more items to sell. Then I came across this guy in a village with an exclamation point over his head. Turns out they gave out quests. I gotta be completely honest with you guys, I am a sucker for quests. So for the next 4 days, I spent all my time just gathering materials and completing as many quests as I could. These quests included all sorts of things like making Pokeballs, making a healer, battling specific pokes, battling specific types, catching specific types, everything. Day 32 made me forget all about that because a world boss spawned, and although I assumed I had to throw my Pokemon at it to actually engage it in battle, I tried and nothing really happened. When it was all over, once again I left empty-handed. I wanted to try battling another player, but I didn't want to get wrecked like the first time, so maybe I'd try my skills at the battle tower first. If I said I got destroyed at this battle tower, it would be an understatement. That Hoopa was a beast. I figured I'd take on some easier competition the following day. My confidence was sky high, so I challenged a player to a 4 versus 4 battle. And much to my surprise, just as I expected, I won. Rewarded myself with opening a couple of crates, and I found something pretty cool. A Greninja Shiny modifier. Now all I needed was a Greninja, I guess. So I spent a whole day looking for a Froakie, and then out of the corner of my eye, I spot him in the bushes. The following day was spent trying to level Froakie up to a respectable level so I can use that Shiny modifier on him. With the Shiny modifier applied, I contemplated selling him. After someone in chat told me that they could go for more than $2 million, I had to take a day to really think about this. Oh, you bet I put it up for sale. I put it on the GTS for 2.5 million Pokédollars and awaited the influx of cash. It never came. I licked my wounds and decided to do something fun. I took my former fossil in search of new fossils. It wasn't hard to find them underwater, and I even found a bunch of water shards. I ended up finding 6 fossils and dedicated the next days to cleaning them all up and growing them all up. In the end, I had a beautiful fossil family. You know, the beating that Hoopa gave me was really weighing on my mind. I did some research and found out Sableye would be a pretty good match for it. Day 46, I opened up a couple crates, got some rare candy, and immediately used them on Sableye. Day 47, and there was another boss battle, but this time I was ready. I realized I can type in /boss battle, and I would actually be engaged in battle with the boss. Now I can finally do some damage and maybe get some prizes. I got some decent stuff. Got an interesting message the next day about completing tier 1 of an Apricorn achievement. Achievements? You can probably guess what happened next. I had to get me some achievements. Spent the next 2 days doing that. Battled Pokemon, found Pokeloots, cut down wood, even went collecting flowers. It was a nice little distraction from the normal Pixelmon stuff, and I even made a few bucks out of it. Next day was back to business, and I found a Clefairy out front of my place. Apparently ultra rare is what the wiki said, so hey, I caught it. I also decided to expand my Apricorn farm. This little farm that I had going really was not producing anything at all, so I claimed some land and I got to work on flattening it out. Then I put some fences up and planted some apricorns. Got a big surprise while I was out searching for apricorns to plant in my farm. A wild Bulbasaur spawned. It quickly depleted my supply of Pokeballs. I was getting worried I wouldn't catch it. Eventually I did, but man, did it really damage my supply of Pokeballs. Another boss battle, day 52, and I found a keystone. Didn't do much damage to it, but I got some decent prizes. Used the rest of the day to finish my farm, and I gotta say, it was looking pretty good. The gloomy day at spawn didn't stop me from opening a bunch of crates and having a great time. Again, you guys know I love free stuff. Also opened up a player particle crate and ended up with wings. Huh. Went to level up my Sableye, but not before I bought a lucky egg first. I can't believe it took me this long to actually buy one. Then the grinding commenced. That Hoopa would be no match for me. And I was right, because I ended up facing a Quagsire, a Togekiss, and a Stakataka. And yes, you guessed it, I got absolutely destroyed yet again. Took a bit of a break the next day. All I did was add some particle effects to Charizard, and claimed a bunch of Pokestops for more free stuff. After completing achievements and quests and all sorts of different things throughout the game, I was at $121,000. I was so close to being able to afford that Master Ball, so guess what? I did another caving ball in hopes to finally sell enough to buy myself a Master Ball. Came home and had a Jangmo O boss waiting for me. Luckily, none of his attacks had any effect on my Rapidash, so it was an easy battle, and I won another experience share. The next day I took everything that I had mined over to the shop and sold it all. The time had finally come. My precious. I woke up with a surprise in my inventory this day. The server owners decided to give me some flurry fragments. I used all the rare candy I had because honestly I was tired of grinding levels, in preparation for the dungeon I was about to enter. I got them up as high as I could and it was time to go in. Having done these dungeons before on this server, I knew they were a lot of fun and I knew I could get sucked in here for a few days, so I had to be careful. There are a bunch of objectives and your mission is to kind of help the people in town. Along the way you'll be asked to clear some areas of Pokemon, but also scattered around town are chests filled with things to help you defeat them. There's no healing here though, only in battles, so you gotta be careful not to get knocked out. Once again, I didn't last very long, but I mean that's par for the course at this point. And once all your Pokemon are knocked out, it's time to head back to the real world. The next day I was taking inventory of all my Pokemon and I realized I didn't have a single electric type. And the electric type I wanted was a Jolteon, but first, I guess I had to find an Eevee. Definitely not an Eevee. So weird. I guess spending some quality time with me makes him want to grow up? An old nemesis came to visit me the following day. This Deerling was the first boss I faced and the first boss that beat me. It was time for revenge. I did it. Revenge is sweet. But not as sweet as finding the very Pokemon you set out to find, an Eevee! I caught the Eevee and then turned my attention to finding more Thunder Shards. We were about 4 short. Even with the fly command, this was kind of annoying. They weren't very easy to find. Finally found enough and crafted myself a Thunderstone. But I also got to thinking more about held items. Day 65 was when I set out to form my pickup team. Caught about 20 of these guys, but only 5 of them had pickup. And because of my pickup team catching adventures, I was low on Pokeballs again. At this point, my tiny cabin was feeling a little bit cramped. So I spent the next couple of days tearing it down, well, half of it anyway, and building it back up. I ended up adding a floor and a half of storage space. Not too shabby. A super grindy day the next day. I had to level 5 members of the pickup team. If they're 51 levels or higher, they have a better chance of picking up better drops. After an agonizing day, they were all up to level 51. It was time to test out the pickups. Not too shabby, a lot of junk here, but pretty good TMs. The Eevee had waited long enough, it's time to turn it to a Jolteon. But first, I went to the Poke Builder to see how much it would cost to actually change its nature to timid. I was a few tokens short, but I'd saved up a bunch of crate keys. Maybe I'd get some tokens from those. Nailed it. Changed Eevee's nature to timid, and turned it into a Jolteon. Can you guess what came next? That's right, another day of leveling. I had to go buy myself a Volt Switch for Jolteon. I also put wide lens on it to increase accuracy. I tried it out in the wild and it seemed okay, but the real test would come when I faced the Battle Tower. It was bad. I was 0 for 3 at the Battle Tower. So I tried my luck against a human opponent. And I got wrecked there too. It just wasn't my day. It was a rough day, and I'd been saving this shiny crate for a rainy day. And guess what? Today was the day that I was going to open it. And I got a shiny Bronzong. I was really unhappy with how that last battle went with the human player, so I decided to take on another human opponent. This time I did pretty well, and I actually won. I decided to add the Bronzong to the GTS because I knew I was never really going to use it. I also added the Charmeleon and the Greninja back to the GTS in hopes of making some cash. I went and checked out the grass gym. I had no problem with the 2 NPCs out front. But when I got to the actual gym leader, my levels were too high. I'd forgotten about the 55 level cap. So I decided to assemble a team that I thought might do pretty good against the grass gym, but while looking, another boss spawned outside my house, and of course, I had to beat. The next day, I had my team. Now, I have to admit, I didn't really take this whole thing seriously, so I kind of just picked the first fire types that I could find, leveled them all up, and got them semi-ready. I was starting to doubt my team, so I spent the next couple of days earning enough money to buy TMs and applying them to my Pokemon. Made the trip back to the grass gym, and it went about as well as expected. Although I did manage to take out one of her Pokemon this time. The word on the street was that a Talonflame would be an effective Pokemon to take to the grass gym, so I spent this day looking for Fletchlings and Fletchinders. Hope I said that right. Since they were pretty common, I caught a few of them and decided which one to keep later on. I picked the best one and, you guessed it, time to grind out some levels. It was time to make some more money on day 85. I was running low, so I got to mining. I got interrupted by a boss battle, and I got the best loot I'd ever gotten. I didn't do a whole lot of mining this day, but I sold what I picked up. Used that money to buy a bunch of held items. I think I'm ready to try that grass gym again. I lost again, but there was progress. This time I took out 2 of her Pokemon. So you're saying there's a chance. I can't believe it even took me this long to start hunting for a Snorlax, but day 87 was the day that I tried to do that. No Snorlax, but a shiny Larvitar. That's my first shiny I found out in the wild. I caught it, but the stats were just really bad, and I still needed money, so I put it up on the GTS. The Snorlax hunt continued on the following day. I had never thought to check the GTS for a Snorlax, but there it was. $414,000 out of my reach. I needed some of my Pokemon to sell. As the sun set on another fruitless day, no Snorlax, but hey, boss Hitmonchan. I beat it and got some Ferium Z. I have no idea why I decided to do this, but I thought, hey, if I can't catch a super rare Snorlax, then maybe I can catch an even rarer Ditto. So I went to the savannah and started looking for one. And guess what? I actually found one. I caught it and made my way back home. If there's one thing Dittos are good at, it's breeding. So I decided to claim more land and start my own little breeding setup. Spent the next morning flattening out an area in front of my house, and I bought a ranch block. The next day I got word that Snorlaxes had been seen at the Extreme Hills Warp, and sure enough, after a little while, a Snorlax! The Snorlax that I'd seen on the GTS was already gone, so I saw a huge gap in the market. I should breed Snorlaxes. So I bought a bunch of cake, placed it down, and got ready to rule the Snorlax world. It was high time I actually had a legendary in my roster, and the easiest legendaries to catch are the 3 birds. So I searched the GTS for an orb, which was of course too expensive for my blood, so I sold some stuff. And right after I sold that stuff, I actually sold a Pokemon. Quickly headed over to the GTS and bought a half-filled fiery orb. The grind was real on day 94. I still had about 184 Pokemon to beat before I filled this orb. Still had some time to catch a nice Kangaskhan. Went to check on my breeding operation, and guess what? Our first egg. The following day, I finally managed to fill the orb. This Shinx had the honor of being the very last Pokemon to be defeated. It was time to get my first legendary. The Moltres spawned, and luckily, that Master Ball that I had paid off. I knew I had to start hatching some eggs soon, and from personal experience, I know how long they take to hatch, so I had to build some sort of AFK egg hatching apparatus. This was going to make things a lot easier. Forgot my Talonflame had Flame Body, which actually increases egg hatching speed, but still, this took a really long time. Eventually, though, it hatched. Just in time for me to have another one need hatching. I guess that's the life of a big-time Snorlax egg dealer, so I decided I needed a second ranch block. The second egg was also a male Snorlax, so this guy, hate to see him go, but 'tis the life of a Pokemon breeder. I had 2 crate keys left. I decided day 99, perfect day to get those opened up. Nothing really that special to report, but hey, free stuff. Day 100, and I thought it would be appropriate to get my starter up to level 100. He deserves it. The breeding operation was in full swing. And I wanted to have a celebratory 100-day battle with a real player, which luckily I won. There's no way I was going to lose on the last day of this challenge. So that's it. That was my final day on the Complex Pixelmon server. Started off with a shiny Squirtle, ended up with a team filled with some of my favorite pokes, and started my own breeding operation, which is sure to rule the world in no time. Thank you to Complex Pixelmon for reaching out to me and providing me with this challenge. It was a fantastic time, and thank you to all the players on the server for making it wonderful. The people I battled, the people I traded Pokemon with, the people I just crossed by in passing and stuff, and did the universal shift dance of peace. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, remember to click the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and click the notification bell to be notified every time I upload a video. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.